So I received my final shipment from Shapeways. This is the final set of items that I've ordered, and there's 2 videos that I'm going to be making to talk about them. The first video is going to be covering this component here. There's 6 of them. These are the engine, I guess the exhaust fans that go in the exhaust ports in the back. You know, there's 6 of them on the back, and they're covered by another Shapeway components that I've covered in a previous video, which is the grill. There's 6 that are fastened together when you receive them. Of course, you gently break them apart. I just wobble them, and then they come off. The other video that I'm going to do is going to be a pretty significant challenge, and I haven't seen a lot of people doing these with the Shapeway parts. It's an expensive part. It's the engine nozzles. I went ahead and I got those. There is some significant assembly that's required with very little instruction, and it's going to be just hope for the best. So I'm going to do a video on that. I'm going to do some studying to see what might work best, and sort of do a video just so people can see what I've done and probably learn from my mistakes there as well. So in this specific case, what I've decided to do is something a little bit different from the other videos. I'm going to take you from start to finish. Of course, it's going to be not necessarily time-lapse, but just quick segments from start to finish of assembling these and then fixing them within the actual Falcon themselves. So the first thing that I'm going to have to do is drill the holes, and based on some recommendations and my own experiences with using the barrel sanding tool, that's what I'm going to use. I did attempt, just so you know, I did attempt to use something like this with a drill and fix it in the back. I ran some tests, not on the Falcon of course, but I ran some tests, and what I found is that that wasn't just going to work, okay? The reason for it is that I was using this on a DeWalt drill. One of the things about that drill is that it had a battery, and you definitely, this is going to take a lot of drilling power, so the battery is going to run down real quick. So you want something with sustainable energy, and at this point here, that's why you want to use a corded Dremel tool to drill through this. So I'll use a smaller bit to get the puncture in, and then I'll start scraping away at this, and I'm going to start with that process, and I'll show you that in a moment. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this, cover it with acetone, which I've been doing, which is the recommended practice that was covered in a couple other videos from other folks as well. That I'm going to cover that, just seep in all the cracks, just make sure everything's taken care of, and then I'm going to go ahead and prime it, and then after that I'm going to go ahead and paint it and do some of the details there, etc. And then I will go ahead and finally fasten it to the back of the actual holes themselves. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started, and I'm going to start drilling those holes into the Falcon and show you what I'm actually doing, starting, and then showing you the finished results once I get that. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the drilling. I'm going to use the last bit I had here, which was this one. It's got the little cone shape to it. I'm going to use that to just sort of start a puncture there, and then I'm going to move on to the larger barrel, and I just sort of scrape around that. So this is definitely going to require some precision work. And one thing to note is that people are probably going, wait a second, why did he paint this thing, and why is he drilling now? Shouldn't he have done that first? Well, the answer is yeah, I should have done that first. The only thing was that when I first started the project, I thought I was going to be just doing this, okay? Just putting these on top there. And then I found out that I can get the fans to go underneath, seeing some other people do it. Then I decided, well, I'm just going to go ahead and, you know, do the whole thing. So it's been painted now, and just want to make sure that I get that component underneath there. So another thing you'll note is that there's a very small lip around here, and you want to make sure that you keep that fastened, because number one, that'll be used to fix the other piece, and then also this is going to rest on top of that. These vents here can rest on top of that, so you want to definitely make sure that you don't go too far into cutting around the sides. Alright, so we'll get started. Okay, so now we have 5 of the holes cut out, and the Dremel tool has done a great job. I can't say enough about that process. The barrel sander gives you some real precision work there, and all you have to do is just sort of file and sand away at some of the sides, and you're you're good to go. Now, the obvious next obstacle that we have here is going to be this main support. Just happens to be really inconveniently placed in the 6th hole. So what does this mean? This means, number one, we're going to get rid of it no matter what. Okay, we have to have all 6 cut away and looking consistent. The alternative is doing something a little bit half-ass and having the 5 put in and then just putting the grill on top of this one. You can do that if you want, but basically it's just not going to look professional. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and that's not an issue. What I'll do is I'll just gnaw away at this area here first underneath, and then I'll be going back on top again and then drilling through like I normally have been in the rest of the other 5. Now, a couple things just to note is that when you're losing this, the number one thing you want to make sure is that you never cut away this, okay? You can see in a previous video, I had the grill, which I was talking about here, and what I did was I kept the sides and the middle, okay? But I did have to lose these ones here in order for the grill to be positioned over this area here, okay? Now, you do have some off to the side. I don't know if this is actually one, but I know that you have 2 here and then 2 over here on that side. And, you know, but when you think about it, you're going to have these 2 here, this, and this. These are going to be the only ones you have in the back. You have a lot more supports in the front. You have this wall over here of some supports, but you're losing this. It's going to be a lot. Okay, so we'll hope for the best in that area. Now, just to show you what the end results look like, as you can see here that I have what the fan looks like, and then I have the one I've cut out there, and I'm going to just place it on top here. You can see it rests just perfectly. The hole, if you respect the cutting lip that I was talking about earlier, then it just rests on top of that. Put some glue around that, fasten those in, you're good to go. So the next steps will be is I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to show you what they all look like placed in here, and then I'll go ahead and do my painting and my final touch-ups and then get everything going and assembled. This was, I basically just used the acrylic paint. Now here's something I also did. You can see this one next to it. Look how much better this looks. I actually used the wash on this. Okay, and I'll show you what I'm doing in a moment. If you haven't done the washes before, this is actually, I'm using the MIG panel line wash. Okay, this one over here, it's out of focus, but this one here, MIG panel line wash. And by the way, something very important about this is that my my Falcon paint tutorial, or where I talked about covering it with the pigments and so on and so forth, one thing I went back and did is I used this to do all the panel lining on the Falcon itself. Okay, on the bottom and the top, and I'll tell you right now, just doing that, I still have 3/4 of a bottle, I think, in here. Okay, I was just dipping some in the top area here, and I think it took about maybe 2 hours to use whatever I was filling up in the cap, and then just using that for the bottom and the top of the hull. So great investment. I think they're about $5, $6, $7. It's under $10, that's for sure, and you can get a lot out of it. So let's take a look at what I've done here to accomplish this sort of effect and this look. If you haven't done any washes like this before, very, very simple. Now, when I said I didn't do a wash in the very beginning, I was talking about the big bath job that people do where they just, you know, coat the thing in water and hope for the best with some of the paints and whatnot. That didn't work out well for me. So in this case here, I've just dipped the end in. I'm going to get some in, and now I'm just tapping in. It's probably a little too much, but that's okay. It's going to go, don't worry about it. So you go, oh my God, look what he's doing. Don't worry about it. It's going to go away. Okay, so just cover all the areas here. Anything that it's touching on that has a corner is going to really get some accents. And it looks really nice. So you can see here I'm doing corners. It's bleeding. It's great. It's looking gungy, oily, disgusting. It's too bad the vent's going to cover all of this nice detail, but you know, hey, what are you going to do? You spent the $20, you got to do it. Cut the holes, got to do it. So doing that here, at the bottom there's a little bit of a lip. And by the way, I can't say enough for the Shapeways parts. I mean, they've done a fantastic job on the details. You know, just really nice work. especially the side walls, which I'll get to towards the end. I've already painted those, and I've done a lot of what you're seeing here right now on the side walls too. So just bring that in. Alright, now we have this gungy, disgusting looking thing, and it's awesome. Okay? So we got this, again, to put it up against one that hasn't been done. Now we've got this nice shiny silver one, okay? So another thing that the wash has been good for too is that when you know, I didn't have much of a steady hand, so when it came to making some problems, you know, the little paint that spilled off on the side there, I can just go ahead and just cover that up. So the last thing I'm going to do with respect to what you're seeing here with these different ones, and I'll cut to that in a moment, is I'm going to dirty these up. Okay, just like I did the rest of the Falcon, I'm going to use some pigments. I'm just going to dirty this up, and then I'm going to be done with it, and I'll be fastening these underneath the hull, and then, you know, putting these bad boys on top, and well, good luck with that. I mean, you're not really seeing much, but, you know, we all know that it's there. That's all that matters. All right? So let's get to the next part. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is I want to make this look really dirty. Okay, so just like I did with the rest of the Falcon, I'm relying on the pigments, and the pigments that I was using were the same pigments that I used on the surface of the Falcon. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking this old brush, and I'm going to take this guy here, and I'm just going to sort of mess this up. Okay, just dust it all up. Okay, that's fine. In there, get some of this stuff. I'm just going to do this, okay? Just make it look like that. Something really ugly. Try to salvage what I can back in here. Look at this stuff. So this is what I've got. Okay, something that looks like that. Pretty awful. Now I'm going to take a canned air off camera here. Alright, so that's what I have so far, okay? This. So, it's dirty, looks good. Probably just archaeologist this and dust away at some of this, okay? Like that. But, it beats paint in the bottom, okay? It's giving a little bit more yuck to it, okay? So, something that, you know, obviously, this has been on Tatooine, it's got some sand in it, it's been on Jakku, it's got some sand on it. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to go back to my coloring with my wash, and now I'm going to put a second coat up on here. Okay, exact same process, just on top of this. Okay, so now I have oil and dirt in here. Okay, same spots that I was doing. Bottom of the blades, up here. Looks rather nice. Okay, so I've got that. Now I've got that dirt in there, plus the oil for the engine. So it gives you that look of, you know, it's been worn and it's sitting there for a while sometimes, but at the same time, everything's ready to work if it needs to. It's all oiled up. Okay, so I'll do the rest, and we'll keep going in that direction. Alright, so now we have the final assembly of the 6 turbines that are in here. And I'll show you what I did on the back, talk a little bit about that, but let's take a look at what we have here first. I have to say I'm very pleased with the results. From what you can see here, the weathering using the sort of dusty pigment on that really blends well with the rest of the Dirty Falcon. And so very pleased with that. It looks like you just get some sand resting in there. So it looks very nice. And then one of the things that I did was, this is the first time I've actually used Gorilla Glue on this project. And what I did was I used Gorilla Glue to fasten these in there. So you have about 20 seconds to fidget around with something, make some changes, etc., and get it on there. Now, they fit very nicely. Can't talk enough about it. I'll show you the back in a moment, but they fit very, very nicely in there. You don't have to worry about it. It's great. So the other thing I did here was, for the sake of this video, I just put on one of the vents on top. and I wanted to shoot it from an angle. I can see it from several different angles, but to get it on the camera to see, it was a little bit of a challenge. But you can see that the vents do display the turbines behind them. You can actually see them, and like I said, from a multitude of angles I can look around this and see the turbines in there. Now the trick is you want to use something that's going to be a brighter color for the blades. So in this case I'm using the aluminum metal color, and I'm keeping the bottoms and the surrounding darker, so that way I see just the contour of the actual blades themselves in there. So it looks really, really nice. Now the other thing, just to go back on something we talked about earlier in the video about the photo etch grills versus this one. So if you want to reveal this more, then you can use the photo etch ones, and then of course the Shapeway ones. I was explaining earlier, you don't get that level of detail. However, I want to explain to you, and you can check this out yourself, the Shapeway ones are actually the movie accurate ones. So if you look at the 5-foot Falcon and the 32-inch Falcon in the movie, if you can get photographs of these, you will see that they look exactly like the Shapeway ones. You cannot really see through this, okay? So this is just an added level of detail that's really nice. Photo etch will obviously give you more visibility, but it's not movie accurate. So what I did here was, I'm just going to take this guy off, okay, put him to the side, and then I'm going to flip this one around, and let's talk about what's on the back. Alright, okay, so what's on the back here? First of all, you can see these fit in really well, okay, very nicely. And what I did was, you'll notice right here that there's a sort of patch of paint, and I did have to go ahead and repaint the back, and I didn't use an airbrush, I used a spray paint can, and this was just black paint that I was using for primer on other parts. And the reason why I did this was because I did a light test of shining lights through here. I had some LED flashlights shining them through on either side, and shining them through here I can see that some of the paint was thinning out, even though I had 3 coats. I don't know why, but it was thinning out. So I taped this all up, and I wanted to make sure that some of the thinner areas of the plastic around where this is, there was still not light seeping through, but you can sort of see some of the light behind the scenes. So I wanted to make sure I caught all of that. So really did a number in around there, painted it all up, and it's been good to go. So I'm pleased that I'm finally finished this component, and thanks for watching this video. I'm going to be moving on to the engine nozzles next. Again, always like to hear what people have to say, any techniques that they may have used or resources they have found that to be beneficial. Please feel free to include them in the comments for everybody else. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, maybe something I didn't cover in this, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as I can. Alright, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.